Throughout history, trade has been present. Though not always across large swaths of land between powerful empires, trade has always existed. Trade was present before currency in the form of bartering. It was present among the early humans between people of the same tribe. But trade began to become most prominent with the creation of caravans. These caravan journeys, coined sea commerce, were the beginnings of a global trade network leading in the end up to e-commerce, trade across the world through the internet at the fastest speed it has ever been. But trade has not only been about goods. In fact, a plethora of other things have accompanied trade, including religion, languages, and disease. In these many ways, trade has played an important part in shaping history. Money drives on the world. How else would things get done? Bartering was the beginning that led to the exchange of money. Although metal had always been used as a sort of currency, it wasn't until the 7th century BCE that gold coins became widely accepted in the Mediterranean and Indian subcontinent. Greek coins were the first equivalent to credit cards, followed shortly by Roman coins that reached as far as China as traders connected Eurasia. However, when the Roman Empire collapsed, so did cross-continental trade. Many towns and cities in India that had been completely sustained by trade began to decline, and it was not until the connection to spice in Asia that brought Italian traders once again to Indian ports. Following the Black Death, however, long-distance trade gained new momentum as silver production increased in Central Europe. Then with the discovery of the Americas, silver outputs increased even more, allowing Europeans to trade heavily with Asia. One Portuguese merchant stated that silver wanders throughout all the world in its peregrinations before flocking to China, where it remains as if at its natural center. Early commerce relied on camels and caravans, before which high-capacity trade was not possible. However, with the invention of the Arabian saddle, caravans were able to carry large amounts of goods long distances to be traded. Camels first traversed Middle Eastern deserts before they began to be used in caravans that connected China, India, and the Mediterranean. Roman demand for Chinese silk and tea propelled caravans along the Silk Roads. And as horses were in high demand in Asia, they were brought from Central Asia to exchange for silk. But caravans did not only transport goods. Ideas and diseases were some of the most prominent companions to caravans. Religion was a common exchange item, as Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Confucianism were all practiced along the Silk Roads at one time or another. Chinese conversion to Buddhism is contributed to the Silk Roads, as Buddhist traders from India made their way into China, bringing with them their beliefs. The Silk Roads reached their height during the Mongol Empire presided over its entire length. Even though it could take a camel caravan up to a year to travel from the Middle East to China, the Mongol watchtowers kept the roads safe from robbers, and many resting places were built along the roads for weary travelers. All of these factors combined created a prime environment for trade.
Boats have been a key part of trade in human life for millennia. Boats allow for movement across water bodies, especially trade. The first to dominate sea trade were the Phoenicians. They became experts in the craft and were the main transporter of goods throughout the Mediterranean. Sea trade was taken to the next level with the discovery of monsoon winds. The predictable winds decreased time of a trip from India to Egypt from 30 months to 3 months for a round trip. With the knowledge of when to leave, hordes of ships would be sent out seasonally, carrying spices, gems, and other luxuries. The next large pre-industrial revolution development for ships was the introduction of the lateen and other inventions. The lateen allowed for ships to achieve greater speeds, and the Chinese rudder allowed for better steering. The lateen also allowed for boats to take off in less favorable conditions. With those two inventions and the compass, boats were able to take on all conditions, and the increase in sea trade showed up.
The Age of Exploration brought on the rise of Europe, allowing trade connections centering in Europe to form. The Portuguese were the first to begin establishing their worldwide trade network, with beachheads established in India, Malaysia, and China. Ferdinand Magellan, the Portuguese sailor, who was the first to circumnavigate the globe, led the way for Portuguese merchants to expand their horizons. Following close behind the Portuguese were the British and Dutch. The Dutch had created a cheap cargo vessel known as the flute, or flyboat, which allowed them to dominate shipping. However, the British fought back against their rivals with more advanced knowledge of astronomy, allowing their ships to plot faster courses through the sea. The Columbian Exchange was the beginning of a true globally connected trade network. Goods from the Americas were exported all around the world, as far as Asia and Malaysia. New crops allowed population growth in China and India, natural resources made innovation possible in Europe, and immigrants from all over the world flocked to the Americas accompanied by slaves to work the land. All of this trade controlled by Europe led to the European dominance of the world.
Steamships were one of the key inventions of the Industrial Revolution. In 1807, Robert Fulton invented the first one. Steamships greatly increased trade, as merchandise between nations went from 20 million tons in 1840 to 84 million in the 1870s. Trade growth was furthered with the creation of the Paraguay. It was the first refrigerated ship, which allowed more than just luxury goods to be traded. The technology was also used in warfare. In the 1830s, British engineers created ironclad ships with steam power. In 1842, the steamship gunboat Nemesis went up the Yangtze River and ended the Opium War. With that, steamships were big for imperialism overall. Imperialists could use steamships to go upstream. They were able to enter inland Africa and Asia through rivers such as the Congo River. They also were used for trade on streams around the Americas and Europe. A big river for that was the Mississippi. It allowed quicker communication to colonies. A letter from Britain to India went from taking 2 years to 4 months with the invention of the steamship. The discovery of petroleum is what has allowed mankind to reach its highest speed for trade. Edwin Laurentine Drake drilled into heavy crude oil in 1859. Half a century later, the combustion engine was invented. In April 1956, the Ideal X was loaded with 58 containers in 8 hours, forever changing shipping. It cut the cost of freight by 97% to a small 15.6 cents per ton. Container ships may not be quick, moving at about 20 miles per hour, but the savings are worth it. The next big change came with the sudden cheapness of air freight. With the invention of the Boeing 747 in 1970, air freight was now cheap and very quick. Today's quick shipping from both sea and air freight have petroleum to thank.
World connection only became possible through trade. It drove the need for faster travel around the world. Trains came with the invention of the steam engine, making travel across long distances of land exponentially faster. Goods were able to be brought from landlocked areas to ports quicker than ever. With the invention of the telegraph, information was able to cross the world faster than ever, making communication faster than ever. The telegraph was followed by the fax machine, which allowed lists of items wanted on one side of the world to be received instantly on the other side, and plans for a new product to be sent to a factory thousands of miles away in just a few seconds. Then came the delivery companies such as FedEx that delivered packages around the world with their armada of trucks and planes. With the invention of the internet, information was literally everywhere at once, and trade exploded. Stock markets grew enormously, and ordering items online was instantaneous. The internet made trade what it is today, fast, instant, and everything.
Traditions and Encounter says, throughout history, technological advances, such as in shipbuilding, provided the means to dissolve boundaries between localities and peoples, and thus allowed cultural transmission to take place. That idea is greatly displayed in Chapter 2. Ships connecting the world are now the computers, telephones, and radios that dominate our planet. The book also mentions of how English, as a language, has essentially been made the primary language around the globe, allowing trade between all to be easy. The Phoenicians in the late BCs similarly created an alphabet to try to ease trade. And just like in the old days, China opposes Western influence. They have set up a nationwide firewall. Overall, our world has been a constantly changing machine that our species has adapted to. From leagues of camels across the Sahara to the roar of a locomotive across the American Midwest, Everything changes with the inventions of mankind. Speeds that were once thought impossible have been reached. Lands that were once unknown have been mapped out to every detail, and communication that once took years to complete that can now be done in seconds. Since the birth of humans, there has always been one goal, and that is to live as best as possible. We get there by earning money, making a name, and finding enjoyment in activities that nothing else on earth would enjoy. We indulge ourselves on foods, technology, and other items crafted, inspired, and created from other parts of the world thanks to the development of technology by our ancestors. This has been a presentation on Chapter 2 of Band Together by Nyan Shanda, by Logan Inwood, and Josiah Magnum. God bless America.